learning outcomes. After studying the module, you will be able to number 1 know about the test for significance, understand type 1 and type 2 errors. 3 understand about chi-square test, t-test, f-test and ANOVA. And number 4 know about standard error of estimate. Introduction. Two questions arise about any hypothesized relationship between two variables. Number 1, what is the probability that the relationship exists? And number 2, if it does, how strong is the relationship? There are two types of tools that are used to address these questions. The first is addressed by test of statistical significance and the second is addressed by measures of association. Tests for statistical significance are used to address the question, what is the probability that what we think is a relationship between two variables is really just a chance occurrence. If we selected many samples from the same population, would we still find the same relationship between these two variables in every sample? If we could do a census of the population, would we also find that this relationship exists in the population from which the sample was drawn? Or is out finding due only to a random chance? Tests for statistical significance tell us what the probability is that the relationship we think we have found is due only to random chance. They tell us what the probability is that we would be making an error if we assume that we have found that a relationship is a statistical significant finding. Statistical significance means that there is a good chance that we are right in finding that a relationship exists between two variables. But statistical significance is not the same as practical significance. We can have statistical significance finding, but the implications of that findings may have no practical application. The researcher must always examine both the statistical and practical significance of any research finding. For example, we may find that there is a statistical significance relationship between a citizen's age and satisfaction with city recreation services. It may be that older citizens are 5% less satisfied than the younger citizen with city recreation services. But is 5% a large enough difference to be concerned about? Oftentimes, when differences are small but statistically significant, it is due to a very large sample size. In a sample of a smaller size, the difference would be enough to be statistically significant.
Now, let us comprehend steps in testing statistical significance. Steps in testing for statistical significance are 1. State the research hypothesis. 2nd. State the null hypothesis. 3rd. Select the probability of error level, that is alpha level. 4th. Select and compute the test for statistical significance. And 5th. Interpret the results. State the research hypothesis. A research hypothesis states the expected relationship between two variables. It may be stated in general terms or it may include dimensions of direction and magnitude. For example, general. The length of job training program is related to rate of job placements of trainees in a directional way. The longer the training program, the higher the rate of job placement of trainees. And in terms of magnitude, longer training programs will place twice as many trainees into a jobs as shorter programs. Next, we move on to stating the null hypothesis. A null hypothesis usually states that there is no relationship between the two variables. For example, there is no relationship between the length of the job training program and the rate of job placements of trainees. A null hypothesis may also state that the relationship proposed in the research hypothesis is not true. For example, longer training programs will place the same number or fewer trainees into jobs as shorter programs. Researchers use null hypothesis in research because it is easier to disprove a null hypothesis than it is to prove a research hypothesis. The null hypothesis is the researcher's straw man. That is, it is easier to show that something is false once than to show that something is always true. It is easier to find disconfirming evidence against the null hypothesis than to find confirming evidence for research hypothesis. Next, we move on to type 1 and type 2 errors. Even in the best research project, there is always a possibility that the researcher will make a mistake regarding the relationship between the two variables. There are two possible mistakes or errors. The first is called the type 1 error. This occurs when the researcher assumes that a relationship exists when, in fact, the evidence is that it does not. In type 1 error, the researcher should accept the null hypothesis and reject the research hypothesis, but the opposite occurs. The probability of committing a type 1 error is called alpha. The second type is called the type 2 error. This occurs when the researcher assumes that a relationship does not exist when, in fact, the evidence is that it does. In type 2 error, the researcher should reject the null hypothesis and accept the research hypothesis, but the opposite occurs. The probability of committing a type 2 error is called beta. Now, we move on to selecting a probability of error level, that is the alpha level. Research generally specify the probability of committing a type 1 error that they are willing to accept, that is the value of alpha. In social sciences, most researchers select an alpha equals to 0.5. This means that they are willing to accept a probability of 5% of making a type 1 error, of assuming a relationship between two variables exists when it really does not. In research involving public health, however, an alpha of 0.01 is not unusual. Researchers do not want to have a probability of being wrong more than 0.1% of the time or one time in 1,000. If a relationship between the two variables is strong and the level chosen for alpha is 0.05, then moderate or small sample sizes will detect it. A relationship gets weaker, however, and or as the level of alpha gets smaller, larger sample sizes will be needed for the research to reach statistical significance. Now coming to selection and computation of the test for statistical significance. First, chi-square test. For nominal and ordinal data, chi-square is used as a test for statistical significance. For example, we hypothesize that there is a relationship between the type of treatment program attended and the improvement in mental condition of patient. We gather the following data. As we can see in the table, we have type of treatments attended A and B, and we have improvement in mental conditions respectively 200, 250 and a total of 450. The patients healed are 300 and not healed are 150, making it a total of 450. To compute chi-square, a table showing the joint distribution of the two variables is needed. We have the table of patients healed by the type of treatment attended, that is the observed frequencies. As we can see in the table, we have patients healed and the type of treatment. Chi-square is computed by looking at the different parts of the table. The cells of the table are the squares in the middle of the table containing numbers that are completely enclosed. The cells contain the frequencies that occur in the joint distribution of the two variables. The frequencies that we actually find in the data are called as observed frequencies. In this table, the cells contain the frequencies for patient who underwent treatment A and got healed, which is n equals to 175, and who didn't get healed, n equals to 25. and the frequencies for patients who underwent treatment B and got healed, n equals to 125, and those who didn't get healed, n equals to 125. The total columns and rows of the table show marginal frequencies. The marginal frequencies are the frequencies that we would find if we looked at each variable separately by itself. For example, we can see in the total column that there were 300 patients who got healed and 150 patients who didn't. We can say that in total there were 200 patients who underwent treatment A and 250 patients who underwent treatment B. Finally, there is a total number of observations in the whole table called capital N. In this table, capital N equals to 450. Calculation of chi-square. Display observed frequencies for each cell. Calculate expected frequencies for each cell. Calculate for each cell the expected minus observed frequency squared divided by the expected frequency. Add up the results for all the cells. To find the value of chi-square, we first assume that there is no relationship between the treatment attended and whether the patient is healed. If we look at the column total, we can see that 300 of 450 patients got healed, or 66.7% of the total patients under the treatment got healed. We can also see that 150 of 450 patients did not get healed, or 33.3% of the total patients under treatment did not get healed. If there was a relationship between the type of treatment attended and success in healing the patients, then we would expect 66.7% of patients of both types of treatments to get healed and 33.3% of patients of both types of treatments to not get healed. The first thing that chi-square does is to calculate expected frequencies for each cell. The expected frequency is the frequency that we would have expected to appear in each cell if there was no relationship between the type of treatment and patients healed. The way to calculate the expected frequency is to multiply the column total for that cell by the row total for that cell and divide the total number of observations for whole table. For the upper left hand corner cell, multiply 200 by 300 and divide by 450, we get 133.3. For lower left hand corner cell, multiply 200 by 150 and divide by 450, we get 66.7. For the upper right hand corner cell, multiply 250 by 300 and divide by 450, we have 166.7. For the lower right hand corner cell, multiply 250 by 150 and divided by 450, we get 83.3. In this table, we are having a description of patients healed by type of treatment, that is the expected frequencies. This table shows the distribution of the expected frequencies, that is the cell frequencies we would expect to find if there was no relationship between type of treatment and patients healed. Note that chi-square is not reliable if any cell in the contingency table has an expected frequency of less than 5. To calculate chi-square, we need to compare the original observed frequencies with the new expected frequencies. For each cell, we perform the following calculations. First, subtract the value of the observed frequency from the value of the expected frequency. Then, square the results. And lastly, divide the results by the value of expected frequency. For each cell above, we have the following table which shows calculations of Fe minus F0, then squaring the results thereof, and then dividing the squared result by Fe, we get the final result. To calculate the value of chi-square, add up the result for each cell. Total is 70.42. Degrees of freedom. We cannot interpret the value of chi-square statistics by itself. Instead, we must put it into a context. If the value we obtain for chi-square is large enough, then we can say that it indicates the level of statistical significance at which the relationship between the two variables can be presumed to exist. However, whether the value is large enough depends on two things. First, the size of the contingency table from which the chi-square statistic has been computed, and second, the level of alpha that we have selected. The larger the size of the contingency table, the larger the value of chi-square will need to be in order to reach statistical significance if other things are equal. Similarly, the more stringent the level of alpha, the larger the value of chi-square will need to be in order to reach statistical significance if other things are equal. The term degrees of freedom is used to refer to the size of the contingency table on which the value of chi-square statistic has been computed. The degrees of freedom is calculated as the product of the number of rows in the table minus 1 times the number of columns in the table minus 1. For a table with 2 rows of cells and 2 columns of cells, the formula is degrees of freedom equals to 2 minus 1 multiplied by 2 minus 1, that is 1 into 1, which is equal to 1. For a table with 2 rows of cells and 3 columns of cells, the formula is degrees of freedom equals to 3 minus 1 into 2 minus 1, that is 2 into 1, which is equal to 2. For a table with 3 rows of cells and 3 columns of cells, the formula is degrees of freedom equals to 3 minus 1 into 3 minus 1, that is 2 into 2, which is 4. The level of alpha can vary, but the smaller the value, the more stringent the requirement for reaching statistical significance becomes. Alpha levels are often written as the p-value or p equals to 0.05. Usual levels are p equals to 0.05 or the chance of 1 in 20 of making an error, or p equals to 0.01 or the chance of 1 in 100 of making an error, or p equals to 0.001 or the chance of making 1 in thousands of an error. Interpretation of the results. If the computed value of chi-square equals or exceeds the value indicated in the table for the given level of alpha and degrees of freedom, then the researcher can assume that the observed relationship between the two variables exists and reject the null hypothesis. This gives support to the research hypothesis. Now, coming to the next test, that is the t-test. T-tests are the tests for statistical significance that are used with interval and ratio level data. T-tests can be used in several different types of statistical tests. First, to test whether there are differences between two groups on the same variable based on the mean value of that variable for each group. For example, do students at private schools score higher on the SAT test than students at public schools? Second, to test whether a group's mean value is greater or less than some standard. For example, is the average speed of cars on freeways in California higher than 65 miles per hour? Or third, to test whether the same group has different mean scores on different variables. For example, are the same clerks more productive on IBM or Macintosh computers? Computing a value of t. The first step is to state the research hypothesis, like the average salary of male graduate assistants is higher than the average salary of female graduate assistants at CSULB. Second, stating the null hypothesis, that is, there is no difference in the average salary of male and female graduate assistants as at CSULB. Third, select the level of alpha. Select the level of alpha such as p equals to 0.5 or p equals to 0.1 or p equals to 0.001. Fourth, stipulate whether the t-test will be one-tailed or two-tailed test for significance. And fifth, calculate t. Like other statistics, the t-test has distribution that approaches the normal distribution, especially if the sample size is greater than 30. Since we know the properties of the normal curve, we can use it to tell us how far away from the mean of the distribution our calculated t-score is. The normal curve is distributed about a mean of 0 with a standard deviation of 1. A t-score can fall along a normal curve either above or below the mean, that is, either plus or minus some standard deviation units from the mean. A t-score must fall far from the mean in order to achieve statistical significance. That is, it must be quite different from the value of the mean of the distribution, something that has only a low probability of occurring by chance if there is no relationship between the two variables. If we have chosen a value of p equals to 0.5 for alpha, we look for a value of t that falls into an extreme 5% of the distribution. If we have a hypothesis that states the expected direction of results, for example, that a male graduate assistant salaries are higher than female graduate assistant salaries, then we expect the calculated t-score to fall into only one end of the normal distribution. We expect the calculated t-score to fall into the extreme 5% of the distribution. If we have a hypothesis that states that there is some difference between two groups but does not state which group expected to have a higher score, then the calculated t-score can fall into either end of the normal distribution. For example, our hypothesis could be that we expect to find a difference between the average salaries of male and female graduate assistant members, but we do not know which is going to be higher or which is going to be lower. For a hypothesis which states no direction, we need to use a two-tailed t-test. That is, we must look for a value of t that falls into either one of the extreme ends of the distribution. But since t can fall into either tail, if we select p equals to 0.5 for alpha, we must divide the 5% into two parts of 2.5% each. So, a two-tailed test requires t to take on a more extreme value to reach statistical significance than a one-tailed test of t. Calculation of t. A t-score is calculated by comparing the average value on some variable obtained by two groups. The calculation also involves the variance of each group and the number of observations in each group. For example, you may have a look at this table which shows male graduate assistants and female graduate assistants respectively under the number of observations, mean, standard deviation, and variance. To calculate the t of this table, the following steps are involved. First, subtract the mean of the second group from the mean of the first group. Second, calculate for each group the variance divided by the number of observations minus 1. Third, add the results obtained for each group in step 2 together. Fourth, take the square root of the results of step 3. Fifth, divide the results of step 1 by the results of step 4. For example, the first step is to subtract the mean of the second group from the mean of the first group. We have 17095 minus 14885 equals to 2210. Step 2. Calculating for each group the variance divided by the number of observations minus 1. Third, male graduate assistants. We have 400,56241 divided by 403 minus 1, which comes out to be 99642. For female graduate assistants, we have 21864976 divided by 132 minus 1, which comes out to be 166908. Now, Adding the results obtained for each group in step 2 together, we have 99642 plus 166908 equals to 266550. Now, taking a square root of the result obtained in step 3, we have 516.28, and finally dividing the result of step 1 by the result of step 4, that is 2210 divided by 516.28, we have the answer 4.28. To interpret the results, we have to calculate the degrees of freedom, look up the value in the table, and interpret the value of t. Degrees of freedom. The degrees of freedom for the t-test is calculated by adding up the number of observations for each group and then subtracting the number 2 because there are two groups. For example, we have 403 plus 132 minus 2, which comes out to be 533. Distribution of t. The values of t are printed in tables in most statistics texts. The values of the degrees of freedom are listed in a column down the side, and the value of alpha, that is the p-value, are listed in a row across the top. There are different tables for one-tailed and two-tailed tests of t. Find the correct table for the number of tails, then find the intersection of the degrees of freedom and the value of alpha in the table. That value is the value that the calculated t-score must equal or exceed to indicate statistical significance. For a one-tailed test of t with degrees of freedom equals to 533 and p equals to 0.5, t must equal or exceed 1.645. For a two-tailed test of t with degrees of freedom equals to 533 and p equals to 0.5, t must be equal or exceed 1.960. Interpretation of the value of t. If the computed t-score equals or exceed the value of the t indicated in the table, then the researcher can conclude that there is a statistically significant probability that the relation between the two variables exists and is not due to chance, and reject the null hypothesis. This lends support to the research hypothesis. In this example, the computed t-score of 4.28 exceeds the table value of t, so we can reject the null hypothesis of no relationship between graduate assistant gender and graduate assistant pay, and instead accept the research hypothesis and conclude that there is a relationship between graduate assistant gender and graduate assistant pay. Remember, however, that this is only one statistic based on just one sample. At one point in time from one research project, it is not absolute, conclusive proof that a relationship exists, but rather support of the research hypothesis. It is only one piece of evidence that must be considered along with many other pieces of evidence on the same subject. Now, coming to ANOVA. Analysis of variance, or ANOVA, is a hypothesis testing technique used to test the equality of two or more population means by examining the variances of samples that are taken. ANOVA allows one to determine whether the differences between the samples are simply due to random error or whether there are systematic treatment effects that cause the mean in one group to differ from the mean in another. Most of the time, ANOVA is used to compare the equality of three or more means. However, when the means from two samples are compared using ANOVA, it is equivalent to using a t-test to compare the means of independent samples. It is based on comparing the variance between the data samples to variation within each particular sample. If the between variation is much larger than the within variation, the means of different samples will not be equal. if the between and within variations are approximately the same size, then there will be no significant difference between sample means. Assumptions of ANOVA. All populations involved follow a normal distribution. All populations have the same variance or standard deviation. The samples are randomly selected and independent of one another. Since ANOVA assume the population involved a normal distribution, ANOVA falls into a category of hypothesis tests known as parametric tests. If the population involved did not follow a normal distribution, an ANOVA test could not be used to examine the equality of the sample means. Instead, one would have to use a non-parametric test, which is a more general form of hypothesis testing that does not rely on distribution assumptions. ANOVA procedure. ANOVA is usually performed using the 5-step approach. Since it involves computations of test statistics, it is organized in an ANOVA table. The components of variations are broken into variation between treatments and error or residual variations. As we can see in the table, we have sources of variation, which is between treatments and error or residual. Then we have sum of squares, degrees of freedom, mean squares, and F. The table shows the respective formulas to derive the ANOVA table. The ANOVA table is set up as follows, where x equals to individual observations, x bar j is the sample mean of the jth treatment or group, x bar equals to overall sample mean, small k denotes the number of treatments or independent comparison groups, and capital N denotes the total number of observation or total sample size. For example, a clinical trial is run to compare weight loss programs and participants are randomly assigned to one of the comparison programs and are counseled on the details of the assigned program. Participants follow the assigned program for 8 weeks. The outcome of the interest is weight loss, defined as the difference in the weight measured at the start of the study, that is the baseline, and the weight measured at the end of the study, that is 8 weeks, all measured in pounds. 3 popular weight loss programs are considered. The first is a low-calorie diet, the second is a low-fat diet, and the third is a low-carbohydrate diet. For comparison purposes, a fourth group is considered as a control group. Participants in the fourth group are told that they are participating in a study of healthy behaviors with weight loss only one component of interest. The control group is included here to assess the placebo effect, that is, weight loss due to simply participating in the study. A total of 20 patients agree to participate in the study and are randomly assigned to one of the 4 diet groups. Weights are measured at baseline and patients are counseled on the proper implementation of the assigned diet, with an exception of the control group. After 8 weeks, each patient's weight is again measured and the difference in weights is computed by subtracting the 8-week weight from the baseline weight. Positive differences indicate weight losses and negative differences indicate weight gains. For interpretation purposes, we refer to the difference in weights as weight losses, and observed weight losses are shown. We have this table showing low calorie, low fat and low carbohydrate diets and a control group. Is there a statistically significant difference in the mean weight loss among the 4 diets? We will run the ANOVA using 5-step approach. Using the 5-step approach ANOVA, the results are interpreted. Step 1. Set up hypothesis and determine level of significance. We have null hypothesis as mu1 equals to mu2 equals to mu3 equals to mu4, and alternate hypothesis as means are not all equal and alpha equals to 0.05. Step 2. Select the appropriate test statistic. The test statistic is the F statistic for ANOVA. F equals to MSB divided by MSE. Step 3. Set up the decision rule. The appropriate critical value can be found in a table of probabilities for the F distribution. In order to determine the critical value of F, we need degrees of freedom. df1 equals to k minus 1, df2 equals to n minus k. In this example, df1 equals to k minus 1, that is 4 minus 1, which is equal to 3. And df2 equals to n minus k, that is 20 minus 4, which is 16. The critical value is 3.24 and the decision rule is as follows. Reject null hypothesis if f is greater than equal to 3.24. Step 4. Compute the test statistic. To organize our computations, we complete the ANOVA table. In order to compute the sums of square, we must first compute the sample means for each group and the overall mean based on the total sample. For a low calorie, we have n1 equals to 5 and x bar 1 equals to 6.6. For low fat, we have n2 equals to 5 and x bar 2 equals to 3. For low carbohydrate, we have n3 equals to 5 and x bar 3 equals to 3.4. For control, we have n4 equals to 5 and x bar 4 equals to 1.2. If we pool all n equals to 20 observations, the overall mean is x bar equals to 3.6. We can now compute SSB, which is equals to summation nj multiplied by x bar j minus x bar whole square. We have SSB equals to 5 multiplied by 6.6 minus 3.6 whole square plus 5 multiplied by 3 minus 3.6 whole square plus 5 multiplied by 3.4 minus 3.6 whole square plus 5 multiplied by 1.2 minus 3.6 whole square, which comes out to be 45 plus 0.2 plus 28.8 plus 1.8, which is equal to 75.8. Next, we compute SSE, which is summation of x minus x bar j whole square. SSE requires computing the square differences between each observation and its group mean. We will compute SSE in parts. For participants in the low-calorie diet, we have x minus 6.6 and the third column showing x minus 6.6 whole square. Thus, summation x minus x1 whole square equals to 21.4. For participants of low-fat diet, we have summation x minus x2 bar whole square equals to 10. And for low-carbohydrate diet, we have 5.4. And for the participants in the control group, we have 10.6. So, SSE equals to summation of x minus x bar whole square, which is 21.4 plus 10 plus 5.4 plus 10.6, which comes out to be 47.4. Now, the ANOVA table is as follows. We have source of variation as between treatments and error or residual, and the final row is of total. We have sum of squares, that is SS, degrees of freedom DF, mean squares MS and F. Respectively, we have between treatments SS equals to 75.8, degrees of freedom equals to 3, mean squares equals to 75.8 divided by 3, that is 25.3, and F equals to 25.3 divided by 3, which is 8.43. For error and residual, we have sum of squares equals to 47.4, degrees of freedom equals to 20 minus 4, which is 16, and mean square equals to 47.4 divided by 16, that is 3. For a total of sum squares, we have 123.2, and total of degrees of freedom we have 19. Step 5, conclusion. We reject null hypothesis because 8.43 is greater than equal to 3.24. We have statistically significant evidence at alpha equals to 0.05 to show that there is a difference in mean weight loss among the 4 diets. Now, coming to the standard error of the estimates. The standard error of the estimate is a measure of the accuracy of predictions made with a regression line. Consider the following data. The second column y is predicted by the first column x. The slope and y-intercept of the regression line are 3.2 7.2716 and 7.1526 respectively. The third column, y dash, contains the predictions and is computed according to the formula y dash equals to 3.2716 multiplied by x plus 7.1526. The fourth column, that is y minus y dash, is the error of prediction. It is simply the difference between what a subject's actual score was, that is y, and what the predicted score is, that is y dash. The sum of the errors of the prediction is 0. The last column, that is y minus y dash whole square, contains the squared errors of prediction. The regression line seeks to minimize the sum of the squared errors of prediction. The square root of the average squared error of prediction is used as a measure of the accuracy of prediction. This measure is called the standard error of the estimate and is designated as sigma estimated. The formula for the standard error of the estimate is sigma est equals to under root sigma y minus y dash whole square, the whole divided by n, where n is the number of pairs of xy points. For this example, the sum of the squared errors of prediction, that is the numerator, is 70.77 and the number of pairs is 12. So the standard error of the estimate is therefore equal to under root 70.77 divided by 12, which comes out to be 2.43. An alternate formula for the standard error of the estimate is sigma est equals to sigma y multiplied by under root 1 minus rho square, where sigma y is the population standard deviation of y and rho is the population correlation between x and y. For this example, sigma est equals to 3.95 multiplied by under root minus 0.788 whole square, which comes out to be 2.43. One typically does not know the population parameters and therefore has to estimate from a sample. The symbol SEST is used for the estimate of sigma est. The relevant formulas are SEST equals to under root summation y minus y dash whole square divided by n minus 2 and SEST equals to SY multiplied by under root 1 minus r square multiplied by under root n divided by n minus 2, where r is the sample correlation and SY is the sample standard deviation of y. Note that SY has a capital rather than the small s, so it is computed with n in the denominator. The similarity between the standard error of the estimate and the standard deviation should be noted. The standard deviation is the square root of the average squared deviation from the mean. The standard error of the estimate is the square root of the average squared deviation from the regression line. Application of the test of significance. It is used to test null hypothesis. In order to reach some conclusion about an unknown population, these tests are used in forensic science. For example, to estimate whether the distribution, that is, methods of suicide, are independent of gender, it can be tested using chi-square with type 1 error. Testing of an hypothesis useful in forensic science can be done using these tests. ANOVA is used for research purposes and for comparison of results.
Summary. Tests for statistical significance tell us what the probability is that the relationship we think we have found is due only to random chance. Statistical significance means that there is a good chance that we are right in finding that a relationship exists between two variables. Steps in testing the statistical significance: state the research hypothesis, state the null hypothesis, select the probability of error level, alpha level, select and compute the test for statistical significance and interpret the results. For nominal and ordinal data, chi-square is used as a test for statistical significance. T-test are tests for statistical significance that are used with interval and ratio level data. Two independent chi-square variables are divided by their degrees of freedom and then its ratio is calculated. This ratio leads to formation of F distribution. Analysis of variance, that is ANOVA, is a hypothesis testing technique used to test the equality of two or more population means by examining the variance of samples that are taken.